Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. These are excerpts from a short story by Joseph Epstein, these days my favorite writer. I'm fairly addicted to him. This story is called Postcards. Hefferman had begun sending out anonymous postcards, nearly a year ago. His second one was a two-liner to the winner of a prize from the American Academy of Arts and Letters. Congratulations on your award. A life of ass-kissing has not been lived in vain. Hefferman submitted his poems that had more potential contributors than subscribers. Months would go by, and when word finally came, it was always no. Then Hefferman got a master's in English and took a few useless courses in education to qualify to teach high school, but that fizzled too. Teaching was not for him. As for the postcards, the very first was to a guy where he worked, at the Commodities Exchange. One day in the men's room, Hefferman had noticed this Marvin taking great care with his comb-over hairdo, carefully placing the lengthy, oily strands from below his right ear all the way over to cover his bald head. Hefferman sent the unsigned postcard, "Dear Marvin, a word about your hairdo. That word is preposterous. You may not be aware that it is the cause of much mirth among your colleagues. Whatever else you do, please do not abandon it. It brings too much gaiety to our daily grind." Within a week, Marvin showed up properly bald. With this small victory, Hefferman turned his attention back to culture. When a now elderly and formidably boring teacher of his from the University of Chicago wrote a book about playing the viola in amateur string quartets, Hefferman, warming to his task as the Zorro of culture, wrote, "My dear Dottore, my idea of hell is you playing your viola while lecturing on any aspect of literature. The thought of you scratching away for nearly 50 years on your oversized fiddle makes me pity your wife." In the New York Times Book Review, Hefferman read an interview with a woman associated with feminist causes in which she expressed worry about turning 50 and facing the prospect of growing old alone. Hefferman cleared his screen for action. "Dear Ms. Rubin, I read with great empathy the interview in today's New York Times Review of Books. I wonder if it has occurred to you that you and your feminist pals have done everything possible to make yourself disagreeable and unattractive, and now you worry about being alone? Isn't that a bit like the young man who murdered his parents and then threw himself on the mercy of the court as an orphan?" Later that evening, Hefferman had a terrible feeling that having put the card in with a stack of bills, he may have affixed to it a label bearing his real name and address. He spent a difficult night trying to remember if he had done it, and in the morning rose from bed absolutely sure. What a screw-up, he thought. Gigantic. He stopped sending out postcards. One day, after a negligible session at work, Hefferman returned to his apartment, went through his mail, catalogs, and bills, checked his email, and listened to his voicemail. There were 2 messages. One was from his mother. "Hello, stranger. Haven't heard from you in 4 days. Call when you get a chance." Then a new voice, a woman, cultivated and chilly. "Mr. Hefferman, I recently returned from London to a most unpleasant postcard with your name and address on the return address label. I have received more than my share of hate mail, but your ugly little message is special, distinguished by disinterested malice or perhaps dementia. I shall be in Chicago the weekend of May 30th and 31st and plan to call on you. I am eager to learn what sort of lunatic would be so cruel." Hefferman thought of changing his phone number, of moving, of leaving the city for a few months. He thought yearningly of the Federal Witness Protection Program. He imagined himself living in a motel outside Tucson, opening the front door cautiously for the morning paper, driving a gray Chevy, wearing plaid pants and a solid-color golf shirt. He'd call himself something like Bob Simmons. Keep your perspective, Hefferman told himself. You weren't wrong to send those postcards. Someone needs to tell these jerks how pretentious they are. And so, taking his courage in hand, he wrote back, suggesting that when she's in Chicago, they meet at a coffee shop in Hefferman's neighborhood. She began with a controlled smile. "When did you first discover you were a maniac?" "Nothing crazy about it," Hefferman said. "I've taken it as my duty to tell people in the culture business when they're way out of line. Where else will they get truth? From editors, publishers, agents, critics? Ha!" Hefferman continued, "After nearly 40 years of observation, I believe that most people who get involved with the arts lose their grip on reality. It's not a bad thing for them to know someone out there is watching them. She replied, "You need a hobby." He changed topic. Noting the absence of wedding ring, he asked, "You're not married?" "Not at present." Hefferman said, "Do you know Chicago?" "Not really." "If you're free tomorrow, I can show it to you, that is, if you don't mind the company of a maniac." As soon as the words were out of his mouth, he wondered why he had made it, but it was too late now. "I live in New York. I see maniacs all the time." "Sure, 5 o'clock in front of the Hilton." At 5, he honked and got out to open the door for her. "For a madman, you have nice manners." "For a woman whose ideas are calculated to scare off men, you dress well." As he dropped her off, she said coldly, "It has been an instructive evening." Back at his apartment, which he had straightened up, thinking that if things worked out he might bring Ms. Rubin home, he suddenly knew he would live out his days alone. He made a mental note to stop at the post office for another 20 postcards. Anyway, in any case, those are excerpts from the Joseph Epstein story called Postcards. As usual, I welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I always look forward to your comments, and especially like it if you hit the share button below. Share on your social media so that my efforts can have broader impact. And I am flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel, and certainly would welcome you taking a look at any of my 35 books. Perhaps most relevant to this is Relationship Stories, but all 35 are on Amazon. In any event, I thank you for watching. I'm Marty Nemko.